there's there's plants, weeds pushing their way through cracks in the pavement. And you look at the spaces where buildings join the footpath, and you'll often find weeds growing in that little space. They just find a tiny space where there's a little gathering of some kind of nutrients, dust and debris, where that's sort of built up in these little wee cracks. And the weed seeds somehow find those spaces, and they start to grow. Trees that have roots that push up the concrete. You walk through the centre of town here, and some of the seats underneath the trees are on crazy angles because the roots of those trees have actually lifted the bricks and thrown the seats out of whack. And it's amazing to go and sit on those seats, because when you sit on it and you feel at a slight strange angle, you're actually feeling the force of nature working on the city. And it's those kind of things that kind of make me feel quite positive about our cities, because ultimately if we just left the cities and stopped interacting with them, they would be recolonised so fast by biological organisms, birds, mice, rats, cats, weeds, trees, all of that kind of thing, and an ecosystem would really rapidly develop that could become quite complex. In a way, through our interaction with the city, we sort of arrest that, and maybe that will involve things like guided walks through the city, showing people the things that they don't necessarily notice, taking opportunities to actually get people to look at the ground or to look at the trees instead of just looking in the shop windows. That kind of thing. I think there's lots of potential there.
And other senses, I suppose, like actually removing the eyes.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. And listening to the sounds. And especially when the people have gone from the city. And those are the times that the city becomes really, really interesting, is when all of the shops are closed. And there's nobody around, and then you start to see all of those other organisms will come in and interact with it. And it would be amazing to walk blindfolded through Trafalgar Street at 5:30 or 6 o'clock at night and just listen to the birds. Just phenomenal. It's really amazing. So anyway, that's kind of my perspective a little bit on nature and the city, and that, I think that the sort of key message I really would like to share with people is that whole process of kind of self-assessment in terms of what you see when you look at the city and what you see when you look at a perceived sort of natural area, and think about how you could make the city more natural, or more a place that you actually really would like to be, and a place that doesn't just make you feel stressed out, but a place that actually makes you feel relaxed and allows you to sort of shrug off some of the stress of daily life, instead of having the need to escape from that and to find a pristine place to do that. Because we're not all going to be able to jump in our cars and go for weekends in the bush before too long, and so it's going to be a really increasing need to have those experiences as close to home as possible. We're really lucky in Nelson that you can walk for a very short distance and be next to a beautiful river or surrounded by trees. We are really lucky here, but we have to keep in mind that this sort of development will continue, and we have to play an active part in making sure that development really continues to support that natural aspect as well.
As materials become a bit more scarce in the future, as predicted, do you see a return to the city becoming, like the constructions becoming more natural?
Yeah, actually, and that's a good point, because like biological or ecological processes are being used increasingly in engineering and building, in all of those kind of aspects. People are starting to appreciate that using a natural biological process is the best way to go, because there's no waste in nature. Everything is used by something else, and humans have been on this path for a while where we sort of seem to have forgotten that a little bit, and so we we do things where we make something and we use it and then we throw it away, and it's just such a linear process that starts here and finishes here. And that sort of arguably is what's led to a lot of the problems that we face, because we end up with a big pile of stuff here that we don't know what to do with, and it becomes a problem in itself. So now there's a lot more focus on making something here that will get used here, disposed of here, and then reused here. So actually changing it into a cyclical process. So a change from using petrochemical-based plastics that come out of the ground, get turned into a plastic cup and go into the landfill, to using a biologically based material like lignin from wood, or cellulose from wood, or from plant material, and making a sort of a plastic out of that, composting that and using that to feed plant material, which then you can make another cup out of. It's kind of an example of how things are changing in that respect to become more cyclical. And I think we will see the same with buildings as well. There's a lot of people now building houses out of straw bales or mud bricks. Same thing again, it's a biodegradable product. I think we have to accept a little bit that sort of permanence isn't necessarily a good thing, and that the desire that we have to put a lot of energy into something and make sure that it's permanent so we don't have to do it again is not necessarily that smart, because often those permanent things aren't actually permanent. They're just semi-permanent for a period of time, and then when they stop being permanent, they're just a pain in the ass to try and deal with. So they're not really permanent at all. So using something that is biodegradable in that sense, and accepting that nothing is actually permanent, is kind of quite a good step, I think. It's appreciating that you might build a house and it might last you for 50 or 80 or 100 years, but at some point it's going to return to a natural state, and you may have to start over again, or somebody might have to start over again, might not be you. And I think that's really important to appreciate that. It's like when you make a garden, you don't make a garden that's a permanent thing. You have to accept that the garden changes over time, and and it might not be a garden at a certain point. It might be something else. It's that whole process of change is really important, I think.